In 1978, Brooke and Carolyn Smith moved to Woodland Park and began looking for a church. There were no Methodist churches in Woodland Park, so they attended the summer services that First Methodist in Colorado Springs held at John Wesley Ranch.
And one of the Sundays that we went, I asked Lloyd Nichols, who was one of the retired pastors at First Methodist, how come, I think their closest Methodist church was either the Springs or Fairplay. And so I said, how come there's no Methodist church between Colorado Springs and Fairplay? And he said, well, why don't you start one?
How do you start a church? In 1978, you posted a notice in the local paper. There was already a Methodist prayer group in town, so the notice got a response.
That was the first article, and I think there may have been subsequent ones. And people just would call us and put their name on the list, so to speak. And then we called a meeting in someone's home.
This meeting took place August 23rd, and it was agreed to start a church. The first service was held a few weeks later at John Wesley Ranch. But soon, the ranch would be closed for the winter.
We had, like I mentioned earlier, we had a number of school teachers, and one of our school teachers was Morton Dixon, who was vocal music teacher at the high school. And he had a fairly large classroom, and we made arrangements with the school district to meet there for church. And of course, his classroom wasn't set up at all for a church. I don't know how to say it, but things just came our way. For example, we had a pulpit, we had collection plates, we had hymnals. We didn't buy any of this stuff.
I don't even like.
We didn't have any money, so we didn't buy it.
I think some various churches in the Springs cleaned out their basement.
Okay.
And
Cast off items that you got.
You know how churches are, they collect everything, nobody throws anything away. So they found an old pulpit, they found some old Bibles, old hymnals, and they were old, they were sort of coming apart.
Written in Latin?
Well, not that one.
They were, yeah, it was, it would have been like reversed from what a normal church is. Normally, the dais, etc., is higher than the congregation. Well, we were exactly the opposite because we were all on risers, and the pulpit was down at the bottom. So anyway. His room adjoined what was the commons area of the high school at that time, and that's where we had Sunday school set up out there with classes just kind of separated, and then we met in Morton's classroom for our sanctuary, and we did that, and then we would set up chairs. We'd had potlucks, I think, probably about once every month.
It was at these potlucks that the business of organizing themselves into a recognized Methodist church got done. The first pastor was a retired preacher named Lloyd Nichols.
Our preachers that supported us were extremely good, especially Lloyd Nichols. He'd call a meeting almost after every church service, and he'd go, you, and he'd call you over to the table, and now you've got to get to work on this, you've got to get to work on that, and don't let too much time go by. He had us do things with the conference, do things with other churches down in the Springs, and you didn't just say we want to be chartered. You had certain steps you had to go through, and so we went through those, and and then we chartered fairly quickly, I think. And you could see we were in the neighborhood of 75 to 80 people that we chartered with.
The congregation held a contest to name the new church, and the easy winner was Mountain View. The church was officially chartered on Sunday, January 7th, 1979.